Itaewon Class follows Park Se-ro-yi, a determined and resilient young man with a strong sense of justice. In a flashback to his high school days, Se-ro-yi sees Jung Gun-won, the son of a powerful conglomerate, bullying a classmate and stands up to him. During their fight, Se-ro-yi punches Gun-won. Unfortunately, things take a tragic turn when Gun-won seeks revenge by causing a car accident that leads to the death of Se-ro-yi's father, leaving Se-ro-yi without a parent. Exploiting their influence and wealth, Gun-won's family, especially his father Chairman Jung, manages to cover up the incident, leaving Se-ro-yi devastated and determined to seek justice. After finding Gun-won and beating him to a pulp, Se-ro-yi is sentenced to time in prison for his violence, crushing his dreams of becoming a policeman. After completing his prison sentence for the assault on Gun-won, Se-ro-yi embarks on a fresh start, determined to fulfill his late father's dream of opening a restaurant using Chairman Jung's business model, which he outlined in his book. During this time, Sua, an orphan who was close to both Se-ro-yi and his father, secures a job at Jungga Co., the very company Se-ro-yi is determined to destroy. With his loyal friends, former inmate Choi Sung-kwon and rookie chef Ma Hyun-yi, Se-ro-yi establishes a cozy pub in Itaewon, a lively neighborhood in Seoul renowned for its diverse culture and vibrant nightlife. Se-ro-yi's pub, named Danbam, or Sweet Night, encounters many challenges, primarily from a neighboring restaurant called Jungga, which is operated, of course, by the powerful Jungga Co., and Jungga resorts to various forms of sabotage, including intimidation and vandalism, in an attempt to undermine Danbam and force Se-ro-yi out of Itaewon. Nevertheless, Se-ro-yi remains resolute, driven by an unwavering determination to keep Danbam thriving against all odds. But Se-ro-yi quickly realizes that he can't run the business alone, and just when the odds seem overwhelming, a ray of hope brightens the pub's future. Jo Yi-so, a driven and passionate social media influencer, joins the team, bringing her expertise in viral marketing. Alongside her, Gun-soo, the youngest son of the Jungga family, and Yi-so's best friend, also joins the team. A little about Gun-soo: he is an illegitimate son of Chairman Jung and has been living on his own since he was 17 to get away from his older brother's bullying. He also has a crush on Yi-so. Back to the pub. Yi-so's marketing skills not only draw attention to Danbam, but also attract a growing customer base. As she becomes more involved in the business, Yi-so develops feelings for Se-ro-yi, leading to a love triangle between Sua, Se-ro-yi, and Yi-so. Meanwhile, Sua has, since joining Jungga Co., climbed the ranks and now works closely with Chairman Jung running the Jungga pub. Hyun-yi, the transgender chef at the restaurant, is also grappling with personal struggles. After Hyun-yi's transgender identity is exposed at a nightclub, Hyun-yi finds it difficult to create inspiring dishes, and in a private conversation, Yi-so suggests firing Hyun-yi for the sake of the pub. But Se-ro-yi insists that Hyun-yi is one of his people, and instead helps and mentors Hyun-yi's skills in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Tony Kim, the newly hired part-time worker, also faces discrimination as a Guinea Korean who was raised in Korea. Often mistaken for a foreigner due to being a person of color, Tony frequently encounters racism and internalized racism from those around him. After Yi-so treats Tony insensitively, she ends up helping him on his mission to find his birth father and get the right paperwork to stay in Korea, eventually reuniting with his Korean grandmother, who turns out to be an investor in Danbam. While striving to make Danbam a thriving establishment, Se-ro-yi makes a surprising discovery. He has actually earned a lot of money from his stocks in Jungga Co. 8 years ago, following Gun-won's public arrest, Se-ro-yi purchased a substantial number of stocks with the help of Ho-jin, the boy Gun-won was bullying in school, who is now a funds manager. This revelation only serves to further aggravate Chairman Jung, receiving updates from Sua, who is acting as his informant. Fully aware of the impending threat, Se-ro-yi forms an alliance with Director Kung, an insider at Jungga, and someone who is close to the chairman. Together, they aim to overthrow Chairman Jung and secure Director Kung's position as the chairwoman. When Se-ro-yi successfully gets Chairman Jung to eat at Danbam, Director Kung and Se-ro-yi's alliance is cemented, and they officially turn their attention to exposing Gun-won's involvement in the tragic hit-and-run accident fully expecting Chairman Jung to prioritize his son over the company. With the help of Yiso's cunning manipulation, Gunwon is arrested, and Yiso's subsequent post exposing Gunwon's hit-and-run confession goes viral, causing public outrage. Although Chairman Jung is angry and thrown off guard, instead of bending under pressure, he remains apathetic and shocks everyone by deciding to send his own son to jail for a lengthy 7-year term. This calculated move allows him to retain control of his company, as he demonstrates in a press conference where he publicly apologizes for Gunwon's actions and claims he had no idea what his son had been doing. Although Se-ro-yi gets some version of revenge by sending Gunwon to prison, he realizes that his personal journey is far from over, especially as Chairman Jung continues to make his life in Itaewon almost impossible. Since Se-ro-yi moved to Itaewon, the chairman has tried many underhanded ways to get him to give up, like when he bought the Donbom building and forced Se-ro-yi to buy it back, or when he tried to recruit Yiso behind Se-ro-yi's back, or even the time Jung-ga-ko tried to poison all of Donbom's food. In a surprising move, wanting to learn the family business, and maybe even win Yiso's heart, Gun-soo decides to join Jung-ga after leaving Donbom. As a result, President Jung orders Sua to wrap up her management of the Itaewon pub and reassigns Gun-soo to take her place. Meanwhile, Hyun-yi returns to Donbom following her sex reassignment surgery, and the team gathers to discuss their participation in the TV competition program called The Best Pub. After finishing first in the first round of The Best Pub, Donbom received a franchise offer from CEO Do of Myung Holdings. News of Myung Holdings' investment in Donbom quickly circulates, drawing more investments. As a result of all the new investments, Donbom expands and moves to a larger corporate building. President Jung warns and threatens Gun-soo about the potential consequences if they fail to maintain their top position. Meanwhile, Yiso's feelings for Se-ro-yi are only continuing to grow, culminating in an emotional outburst where she confesses her love for him. Breaking her heart, Se-ro-yi rejects her due, in part, to their 10-year age gap and his conflicted feelings for Sua, leaving Yiso sad and vulnerable, which we haven't seen from her yet, and is a jarring contrast to her usual fiery personality. However, disaster strikes soon after. Despite Donbom's booming business, their main investor unexpectedly withdraws their investments, leaving them in a difficult situation. It turns out that President Jung orchestrated the entire investment to crush Donbom's spirit and make it harder for Donbom to draw future investors. As a result, Donbom is forced to temporarily close its doors as Se-ro-yi plans to find new investors, while Yiso manages the final round of The Best Pub with the help of Kwon. During the climactic final round of The Best Pub, the judges have a blind taste test, and the host conducts interviews with the top chefs. When it is Hyun-yi's turn, she boldly looks into the camera and reveals that her personal information was disclosed without her consent, bravely confirming that she is transgender. By standing up for herself and cooking beautiful food, in the end, Donbom and Hyun-yi emerge as the winners of The Best Pub, achieving a well-deserved victory. In the midst of all this, Chairman Jung confronts Sua and Gun-soo regarding the outcome of the show. Sua reveals that Gun-soo altered the rules of the final round, making it a blind test to undermine Hyun-yi's popularity, and pressured their chef. But these tactics don't impress the chairman. Yet, when Sua admits that Gun-soo was also the one who leaked Hyun-yi's personal information to the press, Chairman Jung surprisingly commends Gun-soo and is happy when Sua says Gun-soo resembles the chairman. Meanwhile, in the lobby downstairs, Gun-soo faces Yiso, who, feeling betrayed by his dishonesty and disloyalty, slaps him in the face. Jumping 4 years ahead, Donbom has flourished into a thriving company titled IC Group, with Se-ro-yi at the helm as the CEO and Yiso as the CFO. As CFO, Yiso pushes herself to the limit when she is unable to attend a crucial meeting and has to be taken to the hospital. Se-ro-yi starts to realize his deep feelings for her. After the meeting, at the hospital, Se-ro-yi discovers Yiso's room in a mess, and he receives a text message containing an address, accompanied by a warning not to involve the police. At that moment, Gun-soo, who has been designated as the successor to Jung-ga and has recently come back from the Jung-ga branch in the United States, catches up to Se-ro-yi, frustrated that Se-ro-yi would not admit his feelings for Yi-so in the past. But Se-ro-yi rushes off, ignoring Gun-soo, leaving him to follow behind. In a pretty predictable twist, the mastermind behind the kidnapping is none other than Gun-won, who has been released from prison and now blames Gun-soo, Se-ro-yi, and Yi-so for getting him locked up. When the rivals meet again, in a tense moment, Gun-soo rushes forward as a car hurtles toward him. Acting quickly, Se-ro-yi pushes Gun-soo out of the way, getting hit and tumbling down the hill. In a state of panic, Gun-soo frantically calls the police and Kwon, but he finds himself trapped by the gangsters, who violently knock Gun-soo unconscious and put him in the car alongside Yi-so, who is knocked out as well. With their captives secured, the gangsters speed away, leaving Se-ro-yi behind. When the ambulance arrives, Se-ro-yi, now gravely hurt and fighting for his life, is immediately rushed to the hospital where he undergoes critical surgery. At the same time, Soo-ah, desperate for her friend to survive, tells Chairman Jung about what Gun-won is doing, showing him the surveillance footage as evidence. Confronted with the shocking revelation, Chairman Jung gets a phone call from Gun-won himself, who brazenly confesses to holding Yi-so and Gun-soo hostage, revealing his location to be in Pajin. He taunts his father, saying that only President Jung can stop him. But despite Chairman Jung's attempts to reason with Gun-won, he stays unyielding. When Gun-won gets off the phone, he goes to look inside the locked shed, but Gun-soo has disappeared. Just as he is looking around to find his missing captives, Gun-soo hits his brother with a piece of wood, and Gun-won falls to the ground in pain. Yi-so, determined to kill Gun-won and claim self-defense, takes the wood from Gun-soo's hands, but she stops when Gun-soo convinces her that Se-ro-yi wouldn't want her to kill someone for him. In the hospital, Se-ro-yi is desperate to save Yi-so despite barely being alive himself. Admitting to Soo-ah that he likes Yi-so, Se-ro-yi explains that he needs to make sure Yi-so is okay. So, despite Soo-ah's pleas, he leaves the hospital. Once on the streets of Seoul, Se-ro-yi receives a message from Gun-won telling him that Chairman Jung knows his location. Meeting with the chairman face-to-face, Se-ro-yi threatens to go to the police when Chairman Jung tries to deny any knowledge. Chairman Jung, seeing how desperate Se-ro-yi is to rescue Yi-so, boldly asks his rival to kneel in front of him. Se-ro-yi, reminiscing about his past encounters with Chairman Jung, reflects, "There are things that seem impossible, things that transcend death. Kneeling is one of those for Chairman Jung. However, in this very moment, I would willingly kneel 1,000,000 times." With determination in his heart, Se-ro-yi lowers himself to his knees. After snatching Gun-won's hideout address from Chairman Jung, with Kwon behind the wheel, they embark on a tense drive, narrowly avoiding a collision with Hee-hoon's car along the way. Hee-hoon is one of Se-ro-yi's former cellmates and is a gangster who worked with Gun-won to pull off the kidnapping. Finally reunited, Se-ro-yi and Yi-so quickly check for injuries, while Kwon courageously fights off Hee-hoon's goons. Despite his concussion, Se-ro-yi musters the strength to confess his love for Yi-so. And, realizing the urgency of the situation, he gives her his phone, begging her to run while he faces Gun-won head-on. In a brief but intense fight between Se-ro-yi and Gun-won, their clash is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the police. After the police arrive, Yi-so rushes into Se-ro-yi's arms. At the same time, Soo-ah arrives at the prosecutor's office armed with incriminating evidence against Chairman Jung. And just like that, the destruction of Jung-ga begins as Chairman Jung finds himself called into questioning as his massive empire crumbles in front of his eyes. Later, Gun-soo reveals that Jung-ga Co. is on the verge of bankruptcy, and the board wants to sell the company, leading Chairman Jung to meet Se-ro-yi again to discuss the takeover bid over a meal. At the table, Chairman Jung not only kneels before Se-ro-yi to apologize, but also explains that he has pancreatic cancer and does not have long to live. In the end, Se-ro-yi's bid for the company is approved, and he addresses the board members, emphasizing the importance of trust and focusing on people. It looks like Jung-ga Co. is going to be a very different company under Se-ro-yi's leadership. Meanwhile, Ho-jin pays a visit to Gun-won at the prison, but Gun-won doesn't recognize him at first. After introducing himself as a financial manager, Ho-jin explains that he was the boy whom Gun-won bullied in high school. Ho-jin forgives him, leading to a dramatic scene where the guards must forcefully remove Gun-won as he screams in anger. As for Soo-ah, Once she leaves Jung-ga-ko and hands the prosecution all of her evidence, she is threatened by Chairman Jung's assistant, who warns her that nobody will hire a whistleblower. But Soo-ah doesn't let that stop her. After reaching out to Se-ro-yi to clarify that everything she did was to repay her debt to his father, and Se-ro-yi assures Soo-ah that he will always be cheering for her. Soo-ah actually opens her own restaurant. Gun-soo also reconnects with the Don-bom crew, apologizing to Se-ro-yi, Sung-kwon, and Hyun-yi, who both hit him as punishment. Most importantly to Gun-soo, he meets with Yi-so and apologizes to her before revealing his plans to leave for the United States. To his surprise, Yi-so surprises him with a warm hug, acknowledging his friendship despite what happened in the past. Itaewon Class wraps up with Se-ro-yi and Yi-so going on a date in Itaewon, where they have a heartwarming conversation about their feelings for each other. As we conclude, Se-ro-yi and Yi-so find themselves watching the sunset together, ultimately sharing a perfect kiss.